We've been having a lot of these lately, but it was another Wolfpack weekend. We got a whole lot to talk about.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Happy Monday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Apologies for the brief absence. I was in a wedding over the weekend, and I think I was perhaps a little bit too ambitious about everything I thought I could pull off in just a couple days on the calendar. Got a little overwhelmed. That's why there's a slight absence from us. Hand up, that's on me, but we're back here on Monday. And like I said, we have a lot to talk about. Now, of course, we didn't get to Fan Friday on Friday, so we're going to now transition that into a Mailbag Monday. We know y'all love getting your fan submissions read here on air. We love doing it because we love connecting with y'all. So today will be mostly a Mailbag Monday. And without further ado, let's get into it. First one here comes from Shanerman29. It says, the fact that they did not take a linebacker in the portal, at least the spring window, could that mean the coaching staff is seeing something we don't? Well, I think it could be exactly that. And we talked about this last week in NC State landing another safety in Jihad Carter that we'll talk more about in just a second. But no more additions to the linebacker room. That would tell me that Tony Gibson sees something in the group that he has that gives him a lot of confidence that they don't need somebody else in this linebacker room. You bring Sean down from the safeties. You feel good about the guys you're returning from last season. They must be ready to go. And who are we to doubt them after what we've been seeing defensively these last couple of years?
Yeah, everybody is very high on Sean Brown. He's supposed to be a guy that is not – nobody is a one-for-one replacement for Peyton Wilson. But Sean Brown is supposed to be something special in that linebacking core. And like I said before, it wasn't just about Sean Brown. It was about the linebacker core as a whole that I'm thinking this group needs to show improvement for what I saw in the spring game. And if Tony Gibson, the coach who works with them the most intimately, has the feeling that they'll be just fine, we'll be okay, then I'm okay. I'm not going to go against him in his proven track record of success there. So if he believes in him, I believe in him. We're going to rock out with him.
In Tony Gibson, we trust. I think he has reached the level time and time again that he says jump. We all say in unison, how high?
Break out the trampolines, either one.
That's right. That level of production, one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. So if he's good, I think we should feel pretty good too. Next one here comes from NCSU Pack Fan. I think adding multiple safeties tells a story about our nickel situation more than safety / Boykin's recovery. Could be wrong, but I think the odds of seeing Boykin at nickel this year are very high. Can't recall hearing anything negative about Boykin's recovery at this point, but honestly love the idea of him at nickel. Anyway, Kenton, I'll let you take this one first.
You know, I kind of see that. I think that in terms of the nickel position, we're going to see something interesting this year in that if with the amount of safeties that we have that are proven and talking about the 4-2-5 possibilities and the possibilities that there's going to be a lot more nickels on the field, I could see something along these lines kind of happening in terms of even if it's not Boykin, just going to more stuff where having a nickel on the field as part of your base package is possible. With that being said, again, I do think that adding multiple safeties says something about what we were looking at because there were so many other positions that I thought, hey, this has needs that need to be addressed. But I'm also very high on some of our incoming safeties.
Whether it is heavily influenced by the ACL tear recovery from Devin Boykin or it's just feeling more comfortable with the amount of depth you have, regardless, you're going to have so much healthy composition at nickel, at safety, probably even at corner, nickel and safety especially. So many guys.
Yeah.
You still return Bishop Fitzgerald, but a very solid under-the-radar type season last year. Whether Boykin is ready to go week 1 or maybe later on in the season, Jahad Carter, you feel good about. KJ Martin, you feel good about. Tamarcus Cooley coming back from Maryland, hometown kid, you feel good about his progress. Donovan Kaufman from Auburn, the list goes on. So you feel really good with all of this depth you've suddenly built back there in the secondary. And when Boykin gets back, it just gets even stronger. So yet another thing to feel really confident in with Tony Gibson at the helm. Next one here comes from You Can Call Me Mal. Shout out Mal. She says, I'm always going to be happy when we get good talent. So, hey, welcome to the Wolfpack, Jahad. But I'm confused why they would stack up 10 safeties instead of looking to strengthen the linebacking core. I'm far from a football/roster building expert, but 10 seems like ... a lot. So, yeah, kind of along the same lines here. However, I believe the reason that they take so many safeties is because the physical build of a safety and typically their attributes, they're such good athletes that you can stick them basically anywhere. And Sean Brown is the crown jewel example. We saw, plugging him back into that safety room last year, and everything that he did on the field was, I don't quite want to call it unexpected because I'm sure the coaching staff knew what they had. But for the rest of us, we're like, hold on a minute. Who is this Sean Brown cat? He can really go get it. And so Peyton Wilson going down for the last couple drives of that Clemson game, and you plug in Sean Brown to the linebacking position, and he flourished. He played a great closing minutes to secure that win for us, and it was a big-time win. So that game had to give a ton of confidence to the coaching staff, showing them that, okay, when we get more athletes like a Sean Brown, when we have a hole somewhere else in another position that needs to be filled, guys like Sean Brown, these super athletic safeties, they can plug right in, and we'll feel good about it moving forward.
Yeah, not only that, but now this is a slightly different situation because a lot of these guys are converts from other positions, right? So we're seeing, I believe it's Hinton, who used to be a corner, move back to safety. You're seeing multiple guys who are, again, they're bigger guys that you could easily see sliding down into safety. And while I count on it, while the roster shows a lot of young guys that are very promising and you believe they're going to be good, some of those guys are de facto going to go into the developmental program. Like, that's just the reality. Yes, there will be 10 on the roster. How many dress out and travel with the team is a more important number, and I highly doubt that we see even 8 that do that. So, the realistic situation that we're looking at here, yes, 10 on roster is a lot, but if you look up and down all of our positions and include guys that are likely not going to play, likely depth pieces and all that, they probably all seem like a lot because apparently one thing that I looked into and did not realize is the numbers have jumped since even back when I played. The numbers are now, I believe it's like 110 or 115 in total that teams could have. It was not that when I played. So, this is a situation where, again, the numbers are high. They are a little aggressive, and it is aggressive for one position, but like we just talked about in the previous question here, could these guys be seen in nickel? Could some of them potentially be seen in linebacker? It's all types of different places that you could definitely see some of these guys playing.
And then last football-only comment before we slowly transition into some basketball mailbags. This one comes from Toast803. They say starting in primetime against an SEC team should push viewership numbers for the season. You win it, and we get more primetime this year and show the potential when opportunities come. So, yes, we discussed this a little bit last week when they announced that NC State against Tennessee in Charlotte will be that primetime ABC 7:30 p.m. slot. It matters. NC State being on a national stage that early in the season with the aspirations they have for the rest of the year, the preseason buzz that's very nearly about to ramp up here going throughout the summer, that primetime spot, if you win that game, it sets the stage for the rest of the year. And again, we're looking at our entire schedule and we're licking our chops. So the more primetime opportunities to show out and then really get some steam rolling, the better. So week 2 against Tennessee, I will be in attendance no matter what.
You remember when I said that basketball was in a Sozin's comment moment where it was the time where everything could shift? And I was a little bit early, but since I said that statement, UNC, Duke, and NC State have been to the same amount of Final Fours. NC State has been deeper in the tournament than the Dirty Foot Club the last 2 years in a row. This year is that year for football. You are seeing things out of these other teams that you would have. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. What do I mean by that? Not only is the Dirty Foot Club extremely down this year in terms of football, but let's go to the traditional powers in the ACC for a second. Clemson's coach refuses to use the portal. He just is like so anti that. It's
also refuses to keep his own foot out of his mouth.
Yeah, it's shocking to see, honestly. And then Florida State. People are forgetting because of how well last year went. Florida State is no different than any other school in that when your team uses the portal heavily, especially for the quarterback position, unless they are surrounded with an all-star studded cast of weapons, they generally need a year to get adapted. Now, if they're surrounded by the Monstars from Space Jam, hey, you just get them the ball and get out the way. Florida State doesn't have that. They have an excellent defense, but they don't have that. And both of those teams are also looking to leave the conference. This is a moment for NC State to not only capitalize, and I'm going to draw back to that comment, not only capitalize on the ratings boost from that game, the notoriety boost, and the reputational boost that comes with winning that game would be magnificent. That would put you, and I mean this very genuinely, that puts you in the driver's seat for a playoff spot. It does. Unless Tennessee turns out to be a dud this year, you are putting yourself in position for a driver's seat to the playoff with a win in Charlotte game 2.
It would look extremely, extremely good on the resume. Speaking of resumes, we got more on the second half of our Mailbag Monday after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first sponsor today is LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to be able to find quality professionals that are just right for that role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. They help you hire professionals that you simply cannot find anywhere else, and even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but they might be open to just the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So quite frankly, if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses can get a qualified candidate within just 24 hours. So you can hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, they simply might not have the time or resources to hire effectively. That's why they're constantly finding new ways to make these processes easier. They've launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, which streamlines this process. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, we're back here for our second half of Mailbag Monday. These will be slightly more basketball focused. Let's get into it. First one comes from T to the Rock. I'm happy to have Ern back in the fold. I honestly think he could play a role on this year's team on the court. Can't wait to see it. As for the UVA scheduling situation in football, of course, it makes no sense. What does beating UVA get us? It's the same situation as beating App State, in my opinion. Win and it's ho-hum, lose and you get dinged. Weird times. So I'll start with the Ern. We are excited to have Ern back. We're very excited to have him back on the court, in the locker room, in this program culture. We'll talk more about him in just a couple minutes, but it's a very unexpected but very great addition back to this program. And he fills a need. You do need a power forward. Like we talked about last week, we're still in the hunt for potentially another one, but nonetheless, very good to have him back. For the UVA and App State situation, I understand where you're coming from because in some situations, I would almost consider App State to be a better opponent than UVA based on recent success. However, I would say the committee is definitely going to focus a little bit more on prestige. And what I mean by that, UVA is in the ACC, App State is in the Sun Belt. It may be marginal, but when it comes down to resumes at the end of the year, you'll more than likely have a couple more checks on your resume the more P4 opponents you have than G5. Again, marginal. And me personally, I think I might also disagree because I do want to play App State. However, it is a little bit of a weird situation, but it's also still very true. Financially, it makes far more sense to play Virginia.
I'll start with the end and work my way to the beginning here. The reality is UVA, that play is all about the money. I mean, we've talked about this before. You know, it's not really about what you gain scheduling-wise from beating them because to me, App State, UVA, it's a wash. It's a wash.
Yeah.
An elite group of 5, a bad Power 5, same deal. It's a wash there. But now, with that being said, if it's a wash in terms of prestige, you at least need to go get the most money possible. And I don't think Elliott lasts too much longer there. So that 2026 game could be seen as like you're playing a legitimate football team. I mean, who knows? So that there's that. But now, back to Ernest Ross and having him in the fold. You know, I'm excited about it. I'm not going to lie to you. Not only could he play a role on next year's team, I anticipate him doing so because the reality is you don't want to be in a situation where, again, like we've seen before, you are only a couple bad injuries away from the entire dynamic of your team shifting and you have nothing left. The guard play and the guard depth that we have, the wing play and the wing depth that we have, you're not a couple of injuries away from, we're cooked. We're done in that regard. You need to have 4, 5, 6 guys go down for that to be like, man, we're in a bad way. In our front court, we were quite literally 2 injuries away, 2 bad moments away, 1 suspension and 1 injury, whatever the case may be away from, oh boy, here we go again. So I think that it's important, you know, even though obviously Coach Keats is not Tibbs and he plays a full rotation. He's not just spamming his starters as if fatigue is off. So having a guy like Ern in the fold who can do something and is capable in those minutes, he follows the Robert and I path of be relevant when your number is called on. Excited to have him back.
Next one comes from Programma Jamma. They say, one of the things I was going to miss most was seeing Ern dancing on the Jumbotron as a part of the intro reel at PNC. I hope they put those ACC Tourney 3 goggles all up on there next season. So yeah, just furthering the conversation on Ernest Ross, it matters so much for program culture and team chemistry because Ern feels like the ultimate team chemistry guy. And we talked about how his 3 goggles, much to the chagrin of Jim Boeheim, it kind of fueled the team throughout the rest of that ACC tournament after they heard what Boeheim had to say about it. And sometimes it's just the smallest little antic or smallest little incident that snowballs, and all of a sudden you got why not us? We're hoisting a trophy. We feel like we can play with anyone. And a lot of that can be attributed to Ernest Ross giving up some 3 goggles. It's crazy, but it's true. And so to have Ernest Ross be the ultimate teammate, just a fun-loving guy on the bench, it means so much to the culture, overall momentum that you can build when everyone enjoys being around each other. They say oftentimes in business that you want to do business with people you like. In sports, you want to play with people you enjoy playing with. You want to play with people that make you a better player. Ernest Ross is one of those types. So it's a great joy to be able to see him back in the red and white coming next year.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that even if Ernest Ross isn't the phenomenal player that he is, let me make that clear. Even if he was not a good player, which I think he is. Again, I think that the energy he provides, the rebounding he provides, they are pivotal. And there have been moments where offensively he has shined and shown that he can not, I wouldn't say carry the offensive load long term, but short term, he will have some little explosions where he gets on the heater and he can't miss. This is where, even if he wasn't that player, it's still like having a personality hire in your company.
Yes.
Just somebody that makes everybody feel good because they're around. Like, they're not incompetent. They're not like hurting the company because they're around and everybody likes having them around. You keep those people around sometimes, you know? And so Ernest Ross is one of those guys. Again, he's just a great program guy, and I'm excited to see where he goes. And again, I truly and fully believe this is not me saying he's a personality hire, he'll do nothing special. No. I think that next year he's due for a breakout year. We shall see.
Here comes my episodal dad joke. I don't know where Ernest Ross falls on the Drake and Kendrick beef, but Ernest Ross is basically this team's Mr. Morale. It's good morale all the way around. He brings the vibes. The guys feed off of that. They play better basketball. That's what Ernest Ross means to this program.
Well, hopefully he's also a big stepper.
All right, double dad joke for you. Next one here comes from Jason, NCSU 2007. If Chaminade can play in the Maui Classic every year, why can't we play in the Jimmy V Classic every year? Shoot, let us host it every year while we're at it in Reynolds. We talked about this last week when NC State got their Maui Invitational invite for 2025, which again, really big deal for program optics, for recruiting, overall team chemistry, all of that. And I promise you this, if NC State experienced more success this coming season, they win maybe another ACC title, another deep run in the tournament, watch how many things will fall into the lap of this program. You might just get a Jimmy V Classic in Reynolds Coliseum. And then you get the whole production strum up from ESPN, and you see more feeds on Jimmy V and the 83 team. And the more program success we have in these next couple of years, more things are going to start to go your way. And everything I already mentioned, recruiting, on the court stuff, team chemistry, brand recognition, all of it. But yes, we should undoubtedly be in the Jimmy V Classic every single year.
I've always liked Jason NCU 2007, and this is a moment that just confirms that. This is because this is what I call upping the score, as they like to say. This is, you see what I'm bringing and you raise it. I want us in the tournament every year, and you're like, not just have us in it. Put down the big joker. Have it in Raleigh. Not just have it in Raleigh. Have it at Reynolds. I love everything about this. This is the essence of what the Jimmy V Classic should be about. And I'll tell you what, I don't understand why it's not in Raleigh, because it's not like it's in some like amazing destination place every year. That's the part that's like the Maui Invitational, you can't move it away from Maui. It's no longer the Maui Invitational. The Jimmy V Classic, it should be at the place where Jimmy V has a freaking statue.
Yeah,
I mean, what more do you want? So honestly and truly, I think that this is an excellent idea from Jason here.
Last one here comes from Michael Holbrook. He says, hey, Grayson and Kenton, could we possibly be saving that last scholarship for a certain NBA candidate who could potentially come back, or is it too late for that? Funny you should ask, Michael. It is both not too late and it's potentially possible. The deadline for those who have their names entered in the draft process to rescind their names is May 29th. So we're still coming up on that. Today is May 20th. You got more or less 8 more days to see who could potentially come back out. And if their name is in the portal, by all means, NC State could have a shot at them. So while we're still waiting to fill this last roster spot, and even though there may be some loopholes to be explored for how that last roster spot gets utilized, NC State could, maybe they should, have eyes on somebody in the draft process that may or may not follow through with that. So yes, it is very possible. And the longer we wait, the more you think it could be a real possibility.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll say this. I don't know if he's hired an agent yet. I don't know what's going on fully with that situation. Let's be honest. We all know we're talking about Mo Diarra here. But if Mo Diarra were to come back, I'm welcoming him back with open arms. This would be a gracious reunion. In the words of Proximus Caesar, what a wonderful day. What a wonderful day it would be to get him back, because, again, he's a special, special player, and you can never have too many good players. I've said it a million times. I'll say it a million more. You can never have too many good players.
Coming up next, we're going to round out our Monday episode talking about NC State baseball, because if you're any other school in the country, look out. They're red hot. After a quick word from our sponsors. Our second sponsor of the day is FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home big wins of your own. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's right, $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. And if you're looking for some NC State football to be early on, you can take the NC State over 8.5 wins. Right now, it's currently sitting at minus 118. Now, I bet on this back in the early spring, and I got it at minus 102. But that tells you all you need to know. The odds are starting to creep up. People see NC State as for real. So make sure if you're taking the over for 8.5 wins, get on it now. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Last couple of minutes here on Monday. Now time to talk some NC State baseball. They just keep winning. They have now swept Wake Forest this past weekend. One of the more marquee matchups in all of the country. Two teams kind of sort of vying for a host regional spot. NC State really feels like they've slid themselves into that with the 3-game sweep of Wake Forest. And we kind of did it in dominant fashion. Smoked them on Thursday night, ended up run-ruling that game by pouring it on in the late innings. We survived the Chase Burns game on Friday. He had 13 strikeouts, and it didn't matter because NC State still won that game. And then we ultimately handled business on Saturday, completing the sweep. I've seen a lot of projections for NC State, kind of anywhere between an 8 to like a 15 seed in the NCAA tournament. That's all fine. Projections kind of are what they are, but they should feel really good about hosting a region. The one regional projection I'll bring up comes from D1 baseball. A lot of times folks see this as kind of the most concrete example. They have NC State as an 11 seed across from Clemson being the 6 seed. So the winner of these two regionals will play each other in a super regional. I'll tell you what, maybe it's the red tinted glasses. Maybe it's just knowing some ball. I would absolutely love NC State's chances to get not only out of their own regional, but then to take the winner of the Clemson regional, whoever that may be.
Yeah, the only team that's scaring me out of this bunch is UNCW, because for whatever reason, we were like a deer in the headlights against them this year. But every other team on here, I've got faith. I've got faith that NC State can get it done against Clemson, against the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, against South Carolina, against Army, against UC Irvine, against Grand Canyon. I've got faith in our guys to get it done. UNCW legitimately scares me a little bit. I don't know why. I know that we haven't lost a series since the middle of April, but, it still is a little concerning for me.
None of these teams have the resume or the momentum that NC State has. And there are a lot of very quality teams in these 8 listed here. Also relevant is this week, the ACC tournament starts for baseball. This will be in Charlotte. Talking about an ACC tournament and NC State beginning that tournament instantly brings back a little bit of butterflies with what basketball pulled off in March. It's now baseball's turn. They play on Wednesday and Thursday of this week. Both night games, they have the 7 p.m. slot on Wednesday. They play the Hokies of Virginia Tech, and they have a 1-game rematch with Duke on Thursday night, also 7 p.m. slot. Kenton, what do you think about NC State's early chances to bring Elliott Avett his first trophy at NC State?
Go get the sweep. We won a basketball ACC championship after decades of futility in that area. Baseball, it's your time. It's your time to go win it in Charlotte. And then in December, Coach Doran and company need to complete the sweep of the ACC to where we're like, hey, there is no big 3 in the triangle. It's just Big Me. There is no, all of us are really good. We are the preeminent brand. Go out there and do what you need to do. Even paint a number next to Virginia Tech's, deal and name here. Tell the guys that they're the number 3 team in the nation or something. Because, again, when these guys are on, when we're playing other really good teams, nobody in the country can stop us. It's only when we get a little slack-jawed and like, it's all right. We're okay. We're going to beat this team. We could just show up and beat them, that we end up, limping out with an L like we did in our last series loss where we were swept by Louisville. Like, it's inexcusable. So, at the end of the day, this is a situation where, again, take every team seriously and you'll be just fine.
Postseason baseball is absolute chaos. A lot of people talk about March Madness every year and the magic and the upsets. Not many people truly understand college baseball is maybe even more insane at times than postseason college basketball. So if you're just getting into NC State baseball this year, you're getting into it at a good time because buckle up. It is more than likely going to be a wild postseason for your NC State Wolfpack. I would also encourage everyone listening this, pay attention to the result of the Virginia Tech and Duke game on Tuesday night. If Virginia Tech wins that game against Duke, we have Virginia Tech the next night on Wednesday. If NC State wins that game after Virginia Tech won their first game, we win our pool instantly. On Wednesday night, we could have a trip to the semifinals locked up. So keep your eyeballs on that early matchup between the Hokies and Blue Devils. It has immediate relevance for our first game on Wednesday night. we'll have eyeballs on this as the week goes on, probably plenty more conversations to have on it. But NC State baseball is red hot at the right time. Talked about the capabilities of this team all year. Their preseason rank, I believe, was 13. Right now, they're sitting at 12. Perhaps they had us marked perfectly, but like I said, we're getting hot at the right time. That'll do it for us here on Monday. Again, thank you all so much for the patience. A little bit of shenanigans over the weekend, but we're back at it here on Monday. We will see you all again on Tuesday, of course, as well. Be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box, and we will see you all tomorrow. Until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.